Well, something I've been looking forward to talking about all day, and yeah, so we've been told the sickness thing is no big deal, but that's not what I'm hearing from within the ranks. So I'm moving through the news today, and you'd think today was just another day. Talks of budget spending, people trying to clear up land from pollution or litter or whatever problem there is out there. Then you get these kind of sprigs of sports news, that kind of thing. About the only thing that even piqued my interest was a story on packages being sent to quarantine zones going missing and being told maybe that you should stop sending those or have the people that are receiving them move in some way or come out to you to get them. And I didn't know. I didn't even read the thing. It was so mundane. But on my personal list today, it's looking a lot different. So today, a Republican ranking office member was calling for a full investigation into the pandemic, most notably shelters. I guess he visited a recent shelter, and now he's refusing to comment on the conditions there, saying what he was led to believe isn't what is actually happening. And I wish I could be more thorough on the statement, but we need to gather our thoughts before we make an official statement, end quote, which that seems a little interesting and telling. It makes me want to hear the rest of that story, but it's not even promising for the information that we've been hearing. We're hearing that multiple shelters, even though they haven't been overrun with the sick, have closed up shop, no reason given. Some people had said they saw what they believe to be military or SWAT activity at these, and what they're now calling fallen shelters. That's an interesting word to use. Once the House Democrats said they already had shown that these shelters can't do their job effectively and they should just shut them down and let them die off. And wow, that's quite the statement. And it seems more and more the local activity it's going against the shelters. It's doing its own setups, its own way of protecting people or helping them out. And it's very telling that the information that's coming out of these shelters has not been, I'm going to say, shared with the public. And I think the big problem is how expansive this thing is getting, and nobody seems to know why. We're not hearing enough. It's like the information comes in faster than they can feed it to us. The Attorney General is saying it's fleas and ticks and that colder climate shouldn't be seeing a problem, but Massachusetts, Chicago, they're already reporting sick people, and that stuff didn't make it to national news. We're pretty sure right now China, Korea, Russia, and I'm sure some of the more associated Arab regions are seeing problems. They're having issues, but there's a good chance they're being just covered up by their own government. And there's sweeping lockdowns in China right now. They've already been reported, and for some reason there's no connection to what's going on. And we're seeing videos of people inside these areas. The moaning is so loud it echoes through the streets. It's insane what is going on there. And there's just no telling where this is all coming from. Some South American countries have reported illness, but even those videos are impossible to confirm. You get stuff from people, and people say this is what is coming out of the area, but what we're seeing, it's choppy images, blurry stuff. It's hard to even make anything out. It could be connected, or maybe these are older images, maybe they're coming from other areas. Most of this stuff you can't verify, and that's been the problem. And it's been probably, 48 hours since the first reports started coming in from Pennsylvania, and I think we had one in Georgia, and already we're seeing worldwide activity. 48 hours in, I'm already seeing things that are coming in from other places that just seems connected to me. And maybe am I paranoid? Am I conspiracy theory? I don't know. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that the people who've watched the show for, as long as you have ever claimed that I've done that. But some places they're getting ahead of it. But those that are hit early, they're still having serious issues. So I want to think that what I'm hearing is legitimate, but I'm not 100% sure. So, and the other thing is so much information is coming in. I'm sure we're missing something. It's just not getting to us in some form or the other, and I can't blame them for that, but I really feel like there's a lot of information because it's a wave that we're being hit by a tsunami, and we're not really seeing what's underneath it, the trash that's being pulled along as it comes in, and we're not connecting the dots. And one report I heard was this large explosion in some of these city centers, and was a big news that if there are explosions happening in city centers, I think it would be something that would be reportable. I mean, we're not talking about huge areas like Chicago or New York, but I'd say medium-sized cities that are, fairly busy that have reported things like gas mains exploding and leveling city blocks, and that's just recently started happening. They get maybe 3 seconds of airplay, if that, and it just makes me ask if things are connected in some way. I want to have access to reporters who can head to these areas and say, okay, we're seeing what's going on here, and just doing the full research. If we're going to be the reporters and the news broadcasters that we need to be, I think it's important that we start taking this seriously and going to the heart of this issue and not just seeing it from a blanketed area. Just start asking questions. We're reporters. That's what we do. We ask questions. The best thing we can do right now is to reach out to other reporters there and see what they say. Is there anybody out there that will talk about what happened and give us the information? I'm going to suggest all those stations out there to do that. Just ask. Online, these videos, they're getting, especially pictures, full-scale censorship across the board from any area that you may see. Major media centers will not share these videos. They will not share images. They will say things, but anything is covered up. And this invisibility, it doesn't help anybody. These reports that the images are too graphic, but they're just removed. When we ask people to send us stuff, it's gruesome to say the least. I mean, images that we can't share with you or will be taken down or censored as well. So all we can do is just talk about it. And some of these guys have founded secret forums and apps that can share the content with each other, and I suggest if you haven't seen one to go check it out. Literally walls of media that it made me lose sleep, and I think it'll do the same for you. And one thing that we said before there is transparency is key. We need to give this information to the public and trust that people can see it and do the right thing. And I know that there are areas out there that people are taking this stuff into their own hands, and we just continue to advise them what to do, how to do things. This lack of information, and I understand a lot of it's happening fast, but getting that information to people and saying, look, I understand you may think there's a problem, but think about it before you act, or you take a very defensive position with this stuff. So it's getting hard not to say the word zombie or undead or whatever you want to call it. These people, they don't look well, and the great thing is we're starting to see survivalists that are changing their entire reporting to target that type of attack, or finding ways of empowering people to be able to take their own actions while this is going on. And I think that's great, but one thing that we ran into today too was one guy had literally walked up to one of these things with a group of friends, and they were basically taunting it. It almost seemed blind as it wobbled around trying to reach for each person, chomping its mouth like it was trying to bite before they finally shot it in the head. So you can just forget that ever getting shared on any platform, especially ours, because if we did that, we'd be taken down, and that would be it. It'd be over. So it didn't look like any rabid person I've ever seen, but after showing it to a local doctor, he said, it's feasible. He said there are diseases that do exactly what we're seeing there, that make things look bad. So I'm not a doctor, and I understand it's feasible, but regardless if they're alive or dead, I don't ever see anybody coming back from that. And I think a lot of people out there are seeing that writing on the wall and saying to themselves as they do get sick that there's no coming back. And I don't want to see what the world turns to if that ever happens. And there's coming a point now where this information is hard to deny. We can't, I don't even use the word covering it up anymore, but I think it's just not getting it out. And at this point, I don't think the government even knows what to tell us other than close your doors and wait for them to come to the rescue, and it's not going to happen. People are already taking action on their own terms because it's not about how quickly people reacted to this, but how quickly they could react to it, and how this thing has gone from one thing, and it's a different kind of fight. So a perfect example, I saw one fence place today already trying to sell undead cages. I mean, they even said it in the wording, undead cages, reinforced fences that basically keep you from view and keep supposedly others out. I don't know the quality, but to me it felt like that movie The Purge, where a bunch of rich dudes press a button and the walls close up and nobody can see them anymore, get in. And it just felt like that kind of a patch. And we've already seen shelter sales going up, but it makes me think this is just a little too late. If you're not putting it in yourself, maybe it's time to look at other options. I mean, this thing is happening. We're not missing anything here. And people ask me, like we were saying, some people have asked if there's some sort of cover-up. And honestly, I don't know. I tend to lean that you never blame malice when ignorance is an option, so maybe they just don't know. Maybe CDC or the Surgeon General knows something we don't. And they seem to be describing something that we're not seeing or we don't understand, and maybe that's one of the problems, is what I'm seeing. I think I'd be saying something different or getting different information out there, but I certainly see things differently than what I'm being told, and I can't be the only person. I mean, everybody out there, you have to be telling me that you're not seeing what we're hearing. That information is not congealing, and I think the concern is simply that people will take matters into their own hands with the cops tied up dealing with it, and as they say in Die Hard, you can steal City Hall. And I think that's what the biggest concern is that they give you this information, get people locked down, that they could somehow give the police the option to get ahead of it. But we've seen in Pittsburgh that's not happening. It's just easier to lock everyone down and find another option was the way they were going. But what ended up happening was people started taking actions in their own hands. And I'm under the impression that Pittsburgh was seeing basically mass movement. And that's the thing is we know nature finds a way. The reality is we're at the leading edge of this thing, and this is just the beginning, and I have no doubt it's going to get much worse, and no algorithm or censorship is going to hold it back. This isn't the president getting a Hummer in the Oval Office. This isn't some flu running rampant where they're going to lock everybody down. This is people getting sick, supposedly dying, and then getting back up and making others sick. And in some instances, people are getting sick even when that doesn't happen. So we don't even know how they got sick to begin with. So is this thing airborne? Is it something in the food? Is it something in the water? Is it something that we're missing? And I think it is. They say it isn't. But we don't know. Should I just ignore my lying eyes, I guess is the line? And that puts us in a place where I don't really know how to answer the questions that people are asking me. And people are asking me questions, and I'm sitting there saying, I don't know. Let me tell you what they're telling us. And I hate to even say this. They just say weather the storm, and that's your only option. So some news stations are pretty much carrying this story exclusively too now, which is, it's crazy. 48 hours. Rumors that housing projects take the sick people and stash them away in the basement, and that's just a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And how long before people start fleeing cities? I mean, is it happening already? Is it something that's beginning? We're at the leading edge of it. Interest in rural housing right now has gone up over 1,000% in the last 24 hours. And I don't see anybody that has even hardly broken that story. Nobody's even touched it. And what's worse is that even the answer? Is running, where are you going to run to? I mean, I feel like finding a place in the hills or maybe in Canada, that's going to be pretty much all we got left. And even then, that may not be enough. And I'm hearing they've already started to close borders. So if your chance of running away by moving to another country is your option, then there's a good chance that that chicken has already flown the coop. So what I do know is in a short period of time, this thing has already gotten out of control. We no longer have control, and we're going to do our best to get you the truth. The biggest problem is we don't even know the truth anymore. So we're going to tell you what we know. So to give you the bad news, what's happening now is nothing compared to how bad it's going to get. The truth is we don't know even where it's at right now, and I think it's changing so fast that the 24-hour news cycle is already too late to get you the news. And we have to find a way, especially as news people, to start getting you not only the right information and just getting rid of, I'm going to call it a narrative. I hate saying that because I feel like I'm becoming the person I've always hated by even saying that. But I'm going to say we have to change this narrative. And even if maybe we don't say certain words, maybe we do say different things and give people the right information and supposedly do this the right way, but we have to at least try. And when you see, many of you haven't even seen one of these things. You don't even know what it looks like. You see somebody walking down the street and you probably think they're drugged up, and it may not be drugs anymore. It could be something much worse. It is coming to your town. It's opening your door and looking out the front and seeing something or somebody walked by. It's the insanity of opening up your window and hearing scratching on the window and realize there is actually somebody at your front windows or your doors or knocking where you live, and we don't realize how safe we feel living in safe neighborhoods. The news tells us all the time about crime, but as a whole, I would say at least 90% of us believe that within our home that we are somehow safe. And this thing isn't waiting, it's coming up to people's front doors. We used to be able to dodge it or avoid it, but now it's knocking on the window, it's scraping, it's walking in our backyard. It doesn't follow rules anymore. So while the media is saying don't worry about a thing and the police are saying there's nothing to see here, move along. Maybe it's a result of years of dumping chemicals in the water, maybe it's whatever. I think the idea of finding a cause at this point is moot. I think it's time we realize it's time that we pay the price. And that price of inactivity, of lethargy, of sitting around believing that we're safe, I think our innocence is finally over. And if we don't act